LCP Annual Meeting of the Library Company to order. And at this moment, I will pass it over to our secretary, Helen Geary.
Hello. I am reporting that there is a quorum present, which is 1/4 of the membership, present either in person or by proxy. There are directors who have been nominated for 3-year terms, and I will read their names for you. Lois G. Brodsky, Robert J. Christian, B. Robert Demento, Davida T. Deutsch, Stuart E. Carew, Emma J. Lapsansky-Werner, and Oness Weary. No additional names were placed in nomination by the membership, and I therefore declare that the nominations are closed. May I have a show of hands to vote for those people who did not return their proxy cards? All those in favor? Opposed? I declare the slate elected. And now I give you back B. Garvan, who will give you the President's report.
Well, I'm delighted to present my second report as your president. 2007 was a year of catching our collective breath after the whirlwind that was 2006, the big year of Franklin, the tercentenary of his birth and the 275th anniversary of his founding of the Library Company at the age of 25. And at this moment, not on my script, I want to especially salute Jim Green and his staff here, who I'm not going to list at great length, for their amazing exhibit at the Grolier Club in New York. I hope lots of you saw it. It was a beautiful job. And it took a good bit of time of the Library Company staff getting our treasures over there and exhibiting them and then bringing them back. And to John, Jim, and the trustee, Peter Stallybrass, who for leading the international celebration of Benjamin Franklin, and they did across the seas. John Van Horne will be reporting about the various activities that took place last year. I'd like to tell you about our plans to refresh, that's John's word, refresh the public spaces of our building, and then I'll describe some of the most significant acquisitions of last year. With the aid of a capital grant from the City of Philadelphia and other funds, we will be installing an awning over our front entrance, so you'll know where to come. Enhancing our security system, replacing carpeting that you're walking on now, I hope, acquiring new reading room tables in this room and in the print room and reading room upstairs, and improving the lighting throughout the first floor. And finally, Trustee Carol Soltis and I, working with the Library Company conservator, Jennifer Rosner, are working on a plan that will make our Logan room, over here, not only a comfortable meeting space, but also a gallery for the permanent display on a rotating basis of our important art and artifacts. We have long paid a great deal of attention to the collections of rare books, pamphlets, and graphics. Only recently have we begun to pay careful attention to our very significant collection of other rare materials. To wit, reference librarian Linda August has been creating a database of some 400 individual items, ranging from paintings and sculptures to scientific instruments, furniture, cuneiform tablets, death masks of Napoleon and Washington, which you've probably never seen, coins, medals, and artifacts of the 1778 Mesquians ball for British officers. Information about all of these things, and eventually images of them, will become part of our impact catalog accessible from the website. In preparation for the reinstallation of these art and artifacts, we've embarked on a program of conserving some of our significant paintings and frames. 2 Thomas Birch paintings of the Harpers of New York and Philadelphia, which are missing from the walls in here at the moment. They've just been conserved through the generosity of the Schwartz Galleries, and they're now awaiting the restoration of their frames. Carol Soltis saw the restored canvases at the Schwartz Galleries a couple of weeks ago and attests they look really fabulous. We also have a grant application pending with the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission for conservation of other paintings. You'll notice that this room is now graced by the Presence of Liberty displaying arts and sciences. Probably our most important piece is painted especially for the library company by the artist Samuel Jennings in 1790. Rand painting formerly occupied a space in the director's not very public office, and we took it away from him. So in the days and the coming months, we hope you'll pop in and enjoy expanded exhibitions, changing scenes in here, as well as many improvements in the reading room. We continued to add to our collection of printed materials in 2007 through purchases made with acquisition funds, but the most significant additions to the collection came through important gifts. Professional bookbinder and longtime supporter Todd Pattison gave us his collection of books with printed paper labels consisting of approximately 80 cloth-covered books, mostly American, dating from the first half of the 19th century. These particular titles, all in their original bindings with their fragile spines and cover labels still intact, help us better understand the evolution of book manufacturing during the shift from hand to machine production. Generous gifts such as Mr. Pattison's allow us to continue to be at the forefront of work in the history of the book. Our former president, Bill Helfand, who is somewhere in here, there he is, way in the back, don't go to sleep. Our former president, William Helfand, gave us many rare broadsides, as well as a great collection of 166 19th and early 20th century comic valentines, which complement geographically and chronologically the group of comic valentines in our McAllister collection. Many of Bill's examples are later and English, while those we already own are primarily mid-19th century American examples. They present scathing critiques and exaggerated stereotypes of pawnbrokers, grocers, spinsters, and dandies, are alike lampooned in image and verse. We hope to digitize and make available to the public Bill Helfand's whole Valentine collection in the near future. From trustee emeritus Michael Zinman, we received his collection of 19th century blind literacy materials, one of the most exciting and unusual recent additions to the holdings. Numbering over 150 items, the collection consists of bound books printed entirely in raised letter systems, printed books about blind literacy, and memoirs of the blind containing leaves of raised letter text, annual reports from institutions devoted to the general improvement of the blind, and other supporting materials. The collection increases our existing holdings by a factor of 6. Roger Stoddard, former curator of rare books in the Harvard College Library, gave us an eclectic mix of 127 items, including secondary works related to the decorative arts, a clutch of manuscript material from a 19th century pottery manufactory, and rare and unusual printed materials. These include an early booklet on tangram puzzles. What's a tangram puzzle? Who knows? Folded origami?
No, it's flat.
Oh. Okay, they're here. Rare Afro-American items and a scrapbook containing Civil War and Reconstruction-related clippings from Southern newspapers. Vice President Charlie Rosenberg, whose famous wife is the president of Harvard, as you know, gave us 101 items from his collection of popular medicine. Highlights include many early medical periodicals from London, such as the first 4 volumes of The Doctor, a penny magazine published weekly. Charles's gift also contains a large group of moral reform publications, including a volume of the Anti-Tobacco Journal, comprised of a series of tracts about the dangers of smoking. Significant late-century reform titles include the American Purities Alliance, the National Purity Congress, its papers, addresses, portraits from 1896, which describes the organization's efforts to curb vice, especially prostitution. Other titles include Jacob Riis's Path Breaking the Battle with the Slum from 1902, an extensive study of the Chicago poor Hull House maps and papers from 1895. Library Company member David Durrett, another loyal supporter, generally donated more than 100 items, including maps, membership certificates, photographs, and historical prints. Trustees continue to support the print department by donating collection material and providing funds to secure the purchase of other items. Helen Weary, Lisa Baskin, Martha Morris, Robert Demento, and Howell Rosenberg, most of whom are here, all contributed to the print acquisitions in 2007. Some of the highlights of our 2007 print department acquisitions include A membership certificate of John W. Soulier for the Humane Society of Philadelphia, James Smither engraver, 1806. Established in 1770 to rescue drowning people, the Humane Society of Philadelphia left rescue equipment and instructions on treating drowning victims at locations around the city. The certificate includes a dramatic scene of a woman being pulled from the water, engraved by James Smither. The interior of the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in ink and pencil watercolor. Gouache, drawing by S.F. Yeager, late 19th century, gift of Martha H. Morris. This drawing probably depicts visitors taking advantage of the Academy's recently instituted policy of opening its galleries to the public on Sunday afternoons. Harper's Weekly reported on June 11, 1887, that on the first Sunday afternoon the Academy was open, 15,000 people passed through the doors. Pennsylvania Central Railroad advertisement. Chromolithograph with albumin photographs, Buffalo, New York, Matthews and Warren, about 1869, was a purchase. Combining lithography and photography, this advertising broadside boldly celebrates the railroad and the views and structures along its lines. William Purviance, who became the Pennsylvania Central's official photographer in 1867, may have taken the photographs. The Buffalo printing firm of Matthews and Warren produced high-quality work for the railroad and other clients. A militia muster, drawn by Busybody, engraved by nobody, published by somebody for anybody and everybody. David Claypool Johnston, artist. Hand-colored engraving with manuscript notation about 1819, gift of the late S. Robert Titleman. This satirical print mocks a ragtag gathering of militiamen in Philadelphia. Two mounted officers attempt to organize the group into a solemn column, with the men equipped in shoes and stockings ordered to lead the way. In addition to the text printed in bubbles above the men, a rhyming manuscript text in what appears to be in the same hand as the printed text is written in the upper. So you can see that after the celebratory year of Franklin, the library company continues to build collections and to enhance the experience of those who come to 1314 Locust Street. I thank you all for being interested in us and for enabling us to do this important work. Turning the microphone over to our esteemed treasurer.
Good evening, my name is Bob Christian. I'm a treasurer. I'm sure you'll appreciate that. I'm a treasurer of the library company and also a trustee of the library company. And in that capacity, I am pleased to report that the library company is in good financial health, as opposed to our country, perhaps. At year-end 2007, the market value of our endowment stood at $24.3 million. That's up from $23 million just 1 year earlier. That increase reflects the combined effects of investment performance, drawdown of the fund to fund operations of the library company, and also capital additions. Our endowment returned last year 8.3%, that's December 06 to December 07, 8.3% investment return. That compares with about a 5% return for the overall stock market, so reasonable returns for our endowment. Our operating budget last year was about $2.2 million. Some of the numbers from that $2.2 million in terms of our spending, more than half of that spending is for salaries, taxes, and benefits, precisely $1.2 million. About 10% of our overall expenditures come to, or for utilities, for the maintenance of the environment in the building, so $219,000 for those utilities, and about 5%, $126,000 of expenditure came for stipends for our resident research fellows. In our income, about $277,000 came in contributions from individuals, including annual dues, but that does not include contributions to the endowment. Contributions to the endowment came to an additional $230,000. Most of that was pledge payments to endow the program for early American economy and society. Other grants that we've received, $436,000 in grants from foundations and government grants. That concludes my report. I'd like to turn the podium now over to our director, John Van Horne.
Good afternoon. As our president has said, last year, 2007, was the year after Franklin. There were, however, a few significant Franklin-related events. B mentioned our exhibition, Benjamin Franklin Writer and Printer, which traveled to the Collier Club in December, and also the main tercentenary exhibition, Benjamin Franklin in Search of a Better World, traveled to Paris in December, where it appeared in two different museums, the Musée des Arts et Métiers and the Musée Carnavalet. And also in 2006, we deepened our relationship with Stuart Peru, who spent 30 years building what is really the largest private collection of all things Franklin. He has books, pamphlets, broadsides, newspapers, portrait prints, paintings, sculpture, medallions, decorative arts objects. It's really a huge array of material. And he was by far the largest private lender to the main tercentenary exhibition. Some of you may remember that he was our speaker to our Junto group that fall. But last year, Stuart announced that he intended to give his collection in its entirety to the library company. And his collection wonderfully complements our own holdings and will do much to enhance not only the future study of Franklin, but also the future exhibition and publication of our combined holdings. And the first item that he has given to us to get this gift off to a good start is a snuff box with a life portrait of Franklin, painted by a French artist that Franklin gave to Georgiana Shipley, who was the daughter of one of his good friends. The portrait was done from life, and it was a likeness that Franklin thought was the best one of him, and he actually lent it to Benjamin West so that West could use it to create his Franklin portrait in his very famous but uncompleted painting, the tableau of the signers of the Treaty of Paris. The new snuff box is now on display in the Logan Room. You should all take a look at it. It's really quite spectacular. Over in the corner, there's a big lucite cube with a bust of Franklin. And the snuff box is looking very tiny next to the bust down in the corner of the display. So you should be sure to take a look at it. It looks to me like it was done with a brush with maybe one bristle at the detail. And B also mentioned our plans to turn the Logan Room somewhat into a gallery for the display of a lot of our art and artifacts. And I think it's fair to say that much of what Stuart Peru will be giving us over the coming years will end up on display in the Logan Room, and you'll be able to share it with us when you come here. Last year we continued, and in some cases completed, work on several important cataloging projects. With support from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, we were busy last year working on the retrospective conversion of several important parts of our holdings in order to add those records to our online catalog. Work on the Mellon project concluded at the end of March, just a little over a month ago, and we can now say with some confidence that records for all of our pre-1880 rare books, pamphlets, and most of our graphics collections are now represented in our online catalog, or will be very shortly accessible in the catalog. We also successfully completed work supported by the National Endowment for the Humanities and the William Penn Foundation on the McAllister collection of Civil War era ephemera, which is a huge gathering of about 50,000 Civil War era posters, broadsides, pieces of ephemera, graphics, and manuscripts compiled by two 19th century Philadelphia antiquarians. You've been hearing about this project at various annual meetings and reading about it in the newsletter, so I'm delighted to say that we did successfully conclude that project last year. And then, well, actually I should then also say you should check the website, because a lot of what we did with the McAllister collection is now available on the website. A lot of the images and ephemera have been digitized, and you can check them out there. And also as part of the William Penn Foundation part of that project, we've acquired a new digital asset management system that will enable us to integrate better scans of digitized images of parts of our collection with bibliographical records. Following up on the successful completion of the McAllister projects, our funders provided continuing support for other library company activities. The William Penn Foundation, at the conclusion of the McAllister project, made another significant grant to fund a new project called Philadelphia on Stone, the first 50 years of lithography. This is a multifaceted 3-year project that includes surveying other collections for lithographs, cataloging and digitizing them, mounting an exhibition, creating a website, and publishing a book. And all these activities will take place over the next couple of years. And the other funder of the McAllister Project, the National Endowment for Humanities, made a grant as well last year, which funds a project to do cataloging of early American imprints, many of which we acquired as part of the Zinman collection back in the year 2000, that are not included in what's called the Digital Evans, which is the standard bibliography of all things printed in America before 1801. So we were pleased to get those grants and to be able to carry on those important projects. The Research Fellowship Program is now more than 20 years old and continues to flourish. As our treasurer mentioned, we're giving away between $125,000 and $150,000 a year in stipends to enable people to come here and study. We have a lot of short-term fellowships. We have long-term fellowships for people writing dissertations or doing postdoctoral research. Our funding comes from an endowment, from NEH for postdoc fellowships. We have 4 new fellowships for African American history funded by the Greenfield Foundation. We have fellowships supported by our program in early American economy and society. So we get funding over a broad range of sources. We also have some members who annually make gifts to fund fellowships in certain fields, the Reese Fellowship in Bibliography, for instance, and William Helfand's 2 fellowships each year, one in the history of medicine and one in visual culture. So that program continues to flourish. And I just mentioned African American history. One of our big initiatives of this past year was to get off the ground a program relating to African American history. You all know about the PEAS program, which is now almost 10 years old. When we started that program, we hoped that it would serve as a kind of a prototype for other similar programs in different areas of our subject strengths. And indeed, it's working out just that way. Last year, we got the program in African American history off the ground, and at this time next year, when we're making more reports, you'll be hearing about a similar program in visual culture. But speaking of African American history, you all know that this has been one of our great subject strengths for many, many years, and something we've paid a lot of attention to. We actually began collecting works in this field in the 18th century, acquiring things as they were published. The collection has grown over the years to the point where we now have 13,000 imprints and about 1,200 images dating from the mid-16th to the late 19th century on all manner of subjects relating to African American history. There are works on the discovery and exploration and exploitation of Africa, the rise of slavery and anti-slavery movements in America, the development of racial thought and racism, slavery and race in fiction and drama, and the published writings of black individuals and institutions, and many other topics as well. A vivid example of just how early our directors were concerned with issues of slavery and race is right here in this room, and that's the painting that B. Garvan mentioned. If the subject appealed to them, he would be glad to do that as well, whatever. So the directors replied that they had considered the 3 subjects that he had submitted, and their choice was a little different. They readily agreed in giving a preference to that of Minerva, but as a more general latitude has been so politely granted, they take the liberty of suggesting an idea of substituting the figure of Liberty with her cap and proper insignia, displaying the arts by some of the most striking symbols of painting, architecture, mechanics, astronomy, etc., whilst she appears in the attitude of placing on the top of a pedestal a pile of books lettered with agriculture, commerce, philosophy, and catalog of the Philadelphia Library. That's the gray book she has in her hand, which is presumably our 1789 printed catalog. And a broken chain under her feet, and in the distant background, a group of Negroes sitting on the earth or in some attitude expressive of ease and joy. This powerful representation of liberty, created expressly in response to that particular request from our directors, I think speaks volumes about their deep-seated feelings, and is perhaps, as B said, the most significant piece in our art and artifact collection. And we're glad to have it back out here in the reading room where it's more publicly visible than back above my desk where I enjoyed it for many years. So this program builds on a strong foundation of accomplishments. We had a path-breaking exhibition in 1969 called Negro History 1553 to 1906. In 1973, we published a catalog of our holdings and also of the manuscripts at the Historical Society in this field, which is a standard bibliography now. And we just entered into an agreement this past week, actually, to produce a new edition of that work with Oak Knoll Press in Delaware. And it will be a facsimile of the original publication from 1973, and will also include information on the 2,500 items we've acquired since 1973 in that field. The new program will support research fellowships, the acquisition, cataloging, and conservation of rare materials for the collection, the exhibition and public programs such as the Black Founders exhibition, which is now on display and I hope you all have a chance to see, and the Atlantic Emancipations Conference we sponsored just a couple of weeks ago, and educational programs such as the one we'll be doing this summer, a Teacher Training Institute for teachers in the Philadelphia School District. So we're very grateful to the Albert M. Greenfield Foundation for making this undertaking possible. Of course, none of the accomplishments that I've just related would have been possible without the hard work of our dedicated and talented staff and our dedicated and talented Board of Trustees and the generous support of you, our many shareholders and friends. I'm grateful to you all for what you do to support this great institution. You know that we have a tradition now of recognizing staff members who have reached important anniversaries in the preceding year, and we're going to do it again this year, but I have to say, when I went to make up the list, I discovered we had an absolutely bumper crop of staff members who have reached major anniversaries, although a couple of them reached their anniversaries and would have been acknowledged a year ago, except they weren't in the meetings. Anyway, I want to introduce them to you now. We have 3 staff members who have been with us 10 years, 2 staff members who have been with us 15 years, 1 who's been here 20 years, and 1 25. And I think that's truly remarkable. So let me now introduce them all to you and thank them and let you acknowledge them as well. Our 10-year anniversary staff members are Jenny Ambrose, Associate Curator of Prints and Photographs, who unfortunately is not with us this evening, so we'll put her off for a year. Nicole Scalessa, our IT Manager and website guru and all things technical. And this is the one we were going to give the mayor for. It's a wonderful box produced by Levenger with our joiner die article stamped onto the lid, and then inside it talks about the library company, and we've also personalized these with the names and the dates of all of the staff members who have anniversaries. Now that I've given away the surprise, our 15-year staff members are, Eric, up to you all. There's another 10-year staff. Eric is 10-year and she's works in our visual materials collection. Now 15 years. Sarah Weatherwax, our Curator of Prints and Photographs. And Holly Phelps is on. Holly Phelps? Right here. Our 20-year staff member is Al DeLasta, our Chief of Maintenance and Security. And if all of you read your recent newsletter, you read a very engaging account by Jim Green of his 25 years here. Actually, it wasn't an account of his 25 years here. It was an account of how he came to be hired here and pretty much why he'll never leave. And it was a wonderful account, and I want to acknowledge Jim's 25 years. And finally, I want to say something about another one of our extraordinary staff members, Phil Lapsansky, who came to the Library Company in 1971 to catalog the Afro-Americana collection. He's the one who produced that big black book I just mentioned. At the conclusion of that project, Phil stayed on in the reading room and as curator of African American history. And he's built the collection into one of the finest in the country. You read each year the accounts he writes that are published in our annual reports, and occasionally he mounts an exhibition, such as our new one, Black Founders. You can all feel free to pick up a copy of this at the front desk. It's an essay by Rich Newman and a checklist of the exhibition. But I should tell you, we'll be mailing one of these to all of our members sometime later this year, so you have another chance. This is only one of several exhibitions that Phil has curated over the last 37 years almost that he's been here. Literally hundreds of people who come here to do their work have been aided by Phil, and I read all the time in the acknowledgments of these books as they come out, these testimonies of just how invaluable Phil has been to their work. The reason I want to acknowledge him today is because Phil has been here almost 37 years, and he's just recently decided that as of June 1st, he will give up his berth in the reading room and reduce his time to half-time, but carry on with us as curator of African American history. So, one final comment before I turn the podium back over to our secretary. You should all have gotten one of these Adopt a Treasure catalog. These items, which have been selected by the staff and are available for adoption for conservation, are on display in a case in the Logan Room. So during the reception, please feel free to take a look at them and respond if you're inspired. Thank you.
Is there any business from the floor? Okay. I would like someone to make a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?